Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before our presentation begins, I want to share a few quick tips for how you can get the most out of your webinar experience. Located on the right side of your desktop, you will see your control panel. Here you'll find the audio and questions section. In the audio section, you can choose to tune in using your computer's connected speaker or audio devices, or by dialing in on your phone. In the question section, we encourage you to submit any questions you may have during the presentation by typing them here. We'll address those during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Please note that this webinar recording will be emailed to all of you after the webinar. Finally, there will be live polls at the end of the webinar and throughout that we'd like to thank you in advance for your participation in. It's time for me to turn it over to Anne-Marie Gordon. Anne-Marie, you have the stage.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for participating today or for attending. We are so excited for this webinar. We're going to hear from some broadband service providers as well as some funding experts to talk about BEAD. So let's just jump right in. All right, so I'd like to welcome our panelists. My name is Anne-Marie Gordon. I am for strategic development here at Calix for municipalities and open access. We have Jason Jenkins, the VP of Open Access at Silver Star Communications, Jose Pena, the IT Director for the City of FAR, Howard Border is at a CE firm, the BEAD and grant applications, and Shapur, I'm sorry, Shapur, I'm not going to say the last name, our lead funding analyst here at Calix. And I'll let every panelist give a little bit more color on what they do if they'd like to introduce themselves in a little more detail. Starting with Jason, if you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Yeah, pleasure to join with you today. Yes, I represent kind of an open access initiative within Silver Star Communications. We operate under the Silverlight Fiber Network brand as we continue to venture within this initiative. We primarily focus on building open access fiber networks and building those public-private partnerships that we believe will best leverage, these funding opportunities, be that BEAD we're talking about today or any of the other funding or other initiatives we may be chasing to close that digital divide and bring opportunity to these more rural-based communities. So thank you.
Thanks, Jason. And Jose?
Good afternoon. I'm Jose Pena, Director of IT for the City of FAR. We are new to the broadband business, but we have been running for a little over 2 years. And again, we work very closely with our grants department here internally in our city, and we look forward to continuing to apply to grant opportunities, as well as have been successful in some other local applications we've done.
Thanks, Jose. Howard?
Yeah, great to be with you today. I'm Howard Gorder with Palmetto Engineering and Consulting, and we provide engineering consulting services in the telecom industry and other related industries as well. And so we've been very active in applying for BEAD funds as well as in other broadband grant programs, including Reconnect and travel broadband connectivity, state grant programs, and many others as well. Including upwards of 80 to 100 applications over the last 5 to 10 years in the broadband space. And so very happy to be with you today.
Great. And Shapur?
Hello, everybody. My name is Shapur Zadiar. I'm Calix's lead funding analyst and been with the firm for about 4 years now and been on our funding team ever since. So my responsibility is to be as knowledgeable as I can on all of the different funding sources that are out there. On the private side, it's sort of act as matchmakers and introduce people to private investors. And on the public side, it's really just keeping up to date and finding out the best practices related to public funding programs like BEAD, RDOF, Reconnect, et cetera. So sort of a general funding expert in multiple topics.
Great. Well, let's find out how we get more of our share of this BEAD money, right? So Shapur, this question is for you. BEAD funding is highly competitive, especially with big tech and large ISPs in the mix. What are key differentiators that small and medium-sized providers should highlight in their applications to help them stand out?
Good question to kick things off. Now, a lot of people seem to think that the BEAD programs favors tier ones, right? However, small-sized service providers, small and medium-sized service providers actually have a pretty unique, distinct advantage that can help them stand out. So first off, one of the key really differentiating factors is community engagement. So unlike larger corporations, smaller providers really have those deep-rooted relationships within the communities they serve. So emphasizing partnerships with local governments, anchor institutions, and workforce development programs can significantly strengthen an application. So to answer your question, Emery, some things to include in an application would look like letters of support from local governments, schools, healthcare facilities, libraries, really all of the above that showcase your commitment to your community. It would also be pretty good to mention any existing partnerships that you have as well, that you've developed with, say, for example, your local municipality or any other anchor institutions that fall within your community. So overall, I would say that this falls right in line with another key factor to consider, which is really deploying a future-proof network with experience-based services. So larger ISPs tend to really focus more on scale and speed, and then it affects the customer experience, right? So smaller ISPs actually have the unique experience to deploy these experience-based services that their community actually needs and is looking for. So for example, let's talk about community Wi-Fi, right? So as we all know, community Wi-Fi greatly enhances community security and, more importantly, connectivity for first responders, right? So deploying services like this makes it really, really easy for your ISP to kind of gain the support from your community and really show your dedication to it. So yeah, I think really that's a really key to differentiating yourself among some of those higher tier ones that are really just focusing on speed and not really demonstrating their dedication to their community. Hope that provides some.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds very time consuming as well, though. So that's one thing that, you know, kind of stands out, right? So one thing I kind of want to ask here is, especially to Jason, you guys have a lot of experience in building those relationships with communities already. When you built out those relationships that you've already done, how did it go? Was it so time consuming? Was it so overwhelming? Did you feel like it was an impossible task that you couldn't do again?
Yeah, definitely not something we could do again, but we did navigate a course that was kind of foreign to broadband service providers. We've kind of operated in our own space. You know, you worked with government agencies and permitting and some of the standard flows to get the work done. But to be engaging on a whole new level that says, hey, we're trying to solve problems. We're here to work through challenges. We're here to work through, you know, new funding sources that may be available to you that are outside of maybe grants and funding that you've pursued differently for, you know, city infrastructure or initiatives in the county level. But yeah, now that we're focusing on the state level initiatives, which, you know, the BEAD will be state funded projects, I would definitely be looking for any level of engagement that you can push for. And we've had a fair amount of success directly with those towns and cities level first to, like I mentioned, just understanding your challenges. What are we trying to solve? How do we best position you for economic success? How do we overcome the challenges that we all learned, you know, during COVID when we all had to work from home and got kind of an eye opener there of when all the technology had to shift. So I think it's well worth your time to engage at that level.
Good. Yes, time consuming, but worth it. Awesome. All right. So Howard, this one's for you. How do you see the competitive landscape evolving? Are there specific strategies small and medium-sized providers should use to navigate competition against these deep pocketed players?
Well, as Shapur said, I mean, that I think small providers are well positioned to compete for these dollars. So certainly I wouldn't be scared of it, would be the first thing. And so small providers can be very nimble and obviously very close to customers, which is good in terms of providing service. So when it comes to putting together applications, you can use that to your advantage as well. So I really think it comes down to planning ahead, being prepared, and doing as much initial legwork as you can, so you know where your network is, where you need to build to meet the requirements for BEAD, what it's going to cost you to get there, those partnerships that you can have in place to get there, and also get you more points in the scoring criteria as well. Because usually as a local provider, you're more connected to folks in the community as well, so you can set up the partnerships for getting support for your project, as well as for hiring future employees as well. And a lot of those things get you extra points in the BEAD process also. So I think small providers can be very, very well positioned to do that. And that's something that we try to help many companies with in the process.
Yeah, I've seen such creativity, especially among these providers. I can't wait to get into questions for Jose. He's among my more creative providers, which is really good fun. We're going to get into that next. But before that, we have a poll question we're going to push out. So poll question number 1. So poll question number 1, what is your interest level in BEAD?
Polls closed and results are in.
Okay. So I don't think this should be terribly surprising, but a lot of you are in the process of applying for BEAD. Some are still a little bit on the fence, but getting there. All right, well, let's get into our community partnerships and how we strengthen those applications that we talked about a little bit. So for Jose, as we talk about the local impact, can you share some examples of successful partnerships that you've built coming as a municipal perspective with schools, community organizations that potentially could strengthen your broadband proposal?
Sure, and definitely. One of the things well, let me get started. Since we've been running for a couple of years, you know, we went into live, get our network up and running pretty much towards the end of COVID, and knowing the importance of internet connectivity, and having to be an ACP provider as well. You know, our city knew that obviously it was now going to be a permanent solution, ACP. So our city actually partnered with our local school district and worked on a plan so that the school district funded connectivity for every student household within our city limits. Half of their student population lived within our city limits and half of their population lived outside, you know, so, and this is a pretty large school district. So it was about 15,000 students and about 7,000 rooftops within the city of FAR. So we took that initiative and started to work on getting these residences connected to be able to provide a really good quality service, where before students were relying on hotspot connectivity, and when there's multiple children in the home, that seemed to be problematic. But again, with us being a fiber to the home ISP, you know, they get a full 1 gigabit symmetrical link and no more, not have to rely on any other issues going forward. We've also partnered with a philanthropic organization and gotten a couple grants that have helped us to be more deeply rooted within our community. With Methodist Healthcare Ministries of South Texas, they've invested over 21 million in South Texas, where we're at in our region, in regards to the initiatives that they support. We had a $1 million grant back in 2023 that funded last mile connectivity as our network was growing and to make sure, we got as many homes connected. And then this last year, in 2024, we did get a 3-year grant for another $3.2 million to start our digital literacy and digital equity programs. So we now have digital navigators within our staff. We have paid internships for our students in dual enrollment classes attending college, getting their associate's degree in either IT or cybersecurity, work with our staff while they're attending high school and doing their college courses. So these programs have really helped us, again, offer more of a direct impact to the residents. And again, that's what we want to continue to help. And on another note, we recently also have been partnered with the RGV Broadband Coalition. And it's a coalition here in our region that we plan to apply for grants and for these BEAD opportunities as a regional to be able to compete, right? Being a smaller municipal ISP, but we have support from multiple nonprofits and higher ed institutions and public sector. So we're hoping to continue that work and again, following the model of what the city of FAR has been doing, but at a regional level.
That's great. So you're telling me it takes more than just one particular source of funding, right? You need multiple funding, opportunities available to you, right? You've got to pull in lots of different groups and lots of different stakeholders to make this network work. Fantastic. So Silver Star, same question, how do you guys feel like you've pulled in the municipalities, the schools, the communities, and how, was that challenging? Was it more challenging because you weren't the municipality? Jose has a little bit of an advantage there being on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to augment a little bit to kind of what Jose shared and with his perspective, I would say it was kind of a bridge. You had to build a bridge, a relationship of trust that, hey, this is what we're coming in to offer. We're currently in conversation with quite a number of cities, municipalities that are in just various different states of interest level, understanding, within somewhere of building or moving towards upgrading networks, serving the rural community. So I have just a couple things to augment is I've seen that some cities have had great success, and we have some other examples in our country that maybe didn't go as well, or that they're starting down that track and realizing, hey, we're not very good at this. we need some assistance, we need some consulting. We're not really, public works may not be able to take on the construction element, may involve other contractors. So there's sometimes a hybrid approach is what I'm seeing, is saying, hey, we like the net benefits that will come in the end. We're committed to the ideas of building out, fiber networks. We kind of like the open access model, at least in our perspective, to give competition and try to get the price of broadband down. I've seen a number of cities that deployed a lot of ARPA funds that came, mid and post-COVID to be able to start down this initiative as well. And so it's a lot of times, like I mentioned, just building a bridge saying, hey, we're shifting also as a broadband service provider. We've been heavy in the incumbent space, which you've known us for. We ventured into competitive space. And now we're bridging a new future of these, again, public-private partnerships to understand, like, hey, these are the things that BSPs do really good with, and now we just need to reach an agreement of how to meet your goals and deliver this broadband network of the future. So,
well, and I find the cities get a little larger, they become, they kind of become their own entity that sort of grows on its own, right? My husband served on city council in our city, and it became sort of its own little behemoth. And it grows independent of the city in some ways, of the residents. And especially with the Internet of Things and all of these things they need to connect to, there becomes a bigger and bigger need for the city itself to have connectivity. And so I can see where you're coming from, that they have that need, but they may not always have that expertise. So I think it's very helpful to know that there are options available to have that hybrid approach where they can have some control, they can maybe even have some ownership if they want, but also have some expertise that can help run things, that can help manage things if they're not able to take that on.
Yeah, in fact, Anne Marie, I probably could even augment just a couple things while you're on that topic. To the advantage of the city, it's looking at, a lot of times we say we're building networks that are primarily for internet, which they are. You know, the internet empowers so many applications, but what else can this network do, especially in an open access environment? Definitely a lot of interest in city municipalities to interconnect all of their city assets, buildings, their monitoring, and everything they do, to have all that on one network. Amazing. Everything from traffic lights to, you know, wells and pumps and all kinds of systems monitoring, you know, different facilities. They love it. So,
Yeah.
but then keeping our minds open towards the future of what's next. What are these networks of the future to support other, you know, devices and things that will be in our homes to provide different services and applications which are not internet dependent, but we already, you know, we're building the underlying infrastructure to be able to support that.
Yeah, definitely. There will be a need for all of that. So for Jose, so providers who may not have formal partnerships yet, what steps can they take now to build relationships to enhance their applications? You know, what would you recommend, especially coming from that city perspective? How do they start?
Sure. I'll touch base back on our broadband coalition in our region. Again, we've had working with Connect Humanity. They provided the funding to get a director and a project manager, that nonprofit, but it's really putting everybody in whatever region anyone's working in, putting all these entities together to, you know, support each other. I know Shapur mentioned providing letters of support for applications, but it's gathering all these institutions that can help you either relay the message to the community, spread the message. Again, with the coalition, it's been really great that they've rounded up quite a lengthy list of nonprofit organizations within our region. There's about 5 ISPs that are part of this coalition as well. Multiple, like I said, educational institutions, financial institution, multiple government entities in regards to counties, cities, and Council of Governments as well. Our local Council of Governments is also participating, but then also the private sector. We have project management teams, engineering teams that are part of this coalition, and they recently put their website up with a lot of our information, but that's what we're trying to do so that we hopefully can be successful whenever Texas comes around and really makes the opportunities for entities to apply so that we could help, you know, the local regions. But again, talking to each other, everybody's going to be able to participate and help each other out. What some entity might be doing would benefit somebody else in regards to, you know, those the low-hanging fruit, right? So some organizations might have a expertise in a door-to-door participation, which has been big in our area, where others are more doing online type of activities or distributions or gathering institutions. But again, it takes a team, right? So, and I believe that's what they're going to want to see, applications that can fully help a larger area, right, to make it hopefully reach as many people as possible.
Great. Okay, well, I think with that, we should probably push out another poll question. So we're going to go to poll question number 2. So what is your biggest challenge with the BEAD application? Okay, we might have it.
There you go. Results are in.
Yeah, we got it like a tie for a top 4 here on our scoring results here. So, I mean, interesting here. You know, understanding the scoring strategy, definitely challenging there. We're trying to help go through that a little bit. Meeting funding match requirements. Obviously, that's a concern there. Cybersecurity and supply chain challenges and feasibility studies. Okay, excellent. All right. Okay. So for Jason, many ISPs have built reputation within their regions, and they've effectively, how can they effectively communicate their reliability and long-term commitment to their communities in their BEAD applications? You guys have done an excellent job of building out in your region and expanding that region. How can you, you know, through your BEAD application, show that you're going to continue to have a commitment to your region?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the things we've done since we're talking about BEAD today is really some positioning. There are certain things within BEAD applications they're looking for. We did mention this is, you know, federal funds that are issued to state level that will in turn appropriate those. So I would add to kind of that positioning, you know, work with your state legislatures, legislators, understand what their initiatives are, what they're hoping to see from the outcome of this BEAD funding. I know of some great examples within the state of Idaho that we work quite a bit in. They have a Broadband Advisory Board and also a Technology Council and a number of other associations that you can participate in that are all influencers on the outcome of appropriating BEAD funding. So I know within the BEAD funding application, it does talk about like the viability of an operator, that they're not just showing up today, haven't been here yesterday. So just share your story, right? Hey, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. We're here for the long term. We're here to transition with the industry. Yes, we're here to take opportunity of the funding. I know a number of cities and opportunities are going to be a little bit of a hybrid because part of their main part of town is actually not eligible for BEAD funding, but maybe out on the fringes and other parcels, or as you push into the county, you may be inclined to involve other county commissioners and other people within these same discussions, so they get the collective benefit from that. But yeah, I would just say share your story, tell them who you are, what you're doing, you're here for the long term, this is how you're going to make a difference, and just position that in your application, and I think it'll go a long ways.
Great. And Jose, you guys have recently done some great work on that regional approach. I know that your municipality kind of centered in that one area, but you've really done some fabulous work in the Rio Grande Valley. I'd love for you guys to share a little bit about what you guys are doing down there, and you know, how City of FAR is involved, and you know, really if that can be something that can be done in other places in the country.
Sure, and it definitely can. So one of the programs, going back to our MHM grant, is it funded our curriculum coordinator, and it funded 4 digital navigators. So we just 3 weeks ago just started our new digital literacy training classes. I actually can tell you that I have a list of up to 500 residents who've signed up for the class, that we're going to be doing classes 20 at a time, and going through this program. It'll be a 5-week training program, meeting twice a week. We meet at our library, and we'll soon be moving it to different parts of town to make it closer to the residents in regards to South or North FAR. But again, these classes have been really very well received, And part of when they receive and they get their certificates through the online platform we're using, they'll be provided certificates, but on the last class, they'll be provided an actual laptop. So laptops will be provided to all these students, and it's part of the device distribution program. And that's always been one of the things the city always wanted to help our residents. You know, for one, we were the worst connected city in the country, which is why our mayor years back decided to make this a priority to improve the economic and educational levels here within our city. And again, we've had really good service. Our service is very affordable, starts at $25, but we really now wanted to transition to education and devices. So again, through this program, we're able to bring it to fruition much sooner than we expected. And again, we're very excited that our classes just got started. Our second class started this week. So we're very excited. Now we've got 2 simultaneous classes running, one in English, one in Spanish, and they're grouped based on their technical expertise. But again, this is one of these new programs that we just recently launched and very excited about.
I was recently able to visit the city of FAR, and I can tell you they're doing some really impressive stuff down there. And I was able to talk to a couple of their interns, and they're very excited about the opportunities that they have ahead due to many of the possibilities they have from these programs. So it's really, really neat to see what you guys are doing. Okay, well, we're going to jump into one more question, and then we're going to address some of these concerns that you guys have from the BEAD application process. So we're going to do another poll question here. So which community service do you consider to be the most significant for your network to support?
Results are in.
Great, interesting. All right, so Howard wants to dig into some of the concern we had on the last one. Definitely some questions as far as the BEAD application process, and we need to clear a few things up. So, you know, what key components of the BEAD application process do you think providers tend to overlook? And how do you think that they can ensure their applications are the most comprehensive and competitive?
Yeah, I think the thing that tends to be overlooked is as I started to mention earlier, locations that you've already got service to. If you got an existing network, which you hopefully do and are leveraging to apply for additional areas. So look at the locations that are already served, and then locations that can be excluded or not. And different states use different names for that. Some call it an exclusion. Some say you can omit certain locations. Some states refer to them as outliers. And so to get to that point, you've got to understand what locations are eligible and do a full review of that. And there's a lot of questions about, you know, the eligible locations that you'll probably run into because it is based on the broadband fabric, and there's various errors in the fabric. There are broadband serviceable locations that are on locations that are not habitable, maybe haven't been for a while. There's also locations that should be eligible for support that don't have an eligible VSL point on them. So doing a review of that, understanding which locations are real, which ones are not, which ones are eligible, which ones are not, and then which ones may be very expensive to get to and that you may want to exclude from the application if you're able to, depending on the state that you're in.
Okay. And then what if a BSP does not have a dedicated grant writing team? You know, what if they don't have the resources and the best practices to follow to improve their application? What are they supposed to do? How can they, you know, still compete?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that second poll question you had up earlier, kind of highlighted a few of those concerns too that many folks have. And yeah, there are many many folks that can help do that. That's one of the things that we do at Palmetto Engineering Consulting. We would certainly be happy to help, and there are many other firms that are doing so as well. So we've been through several applications in states that have already held their windows. We have a couple that are open right now that we are working in. There's many more states to come that have not scheduled their application window yet. So yeah, leverage a third-party resource that's been through several of the applications and knows at least some of the ins and outs of things to look for. Can try to maximize scoring. Can do a close review of the locations that need to be served, what it's going to cost to serve them, and ultimately the BEAD applications will need a PE certification and also a financial pro forma as well. Different states are having those submitted at different points in the application, but those are things that are ultimately needed. So having a third party help with some of that through the process will make your application stronger and also help you to complete those things later on also.
Great. So Shapur, how can BSPs keep on top of all of these applications? There are so many of them, the dates are all over the place, right? Like there's just so much going on. It's really hard to keep track of it, especially if you want to apply in multiple states, you want to expand, you're trying to figure out what you're doing. And then you've got to have all this extra funding that you need to match. So how do you manage it all? Oh, Shapur, I think you might be muted, sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Emory, it's definitely tough to manage the application across multiple states, right? Because as many of you guys know, state rules vary differently state by state, right? But the best thing to do is really if you don't understand something in a state or if you're having problems kind of finding a particular resource, it's really important to engage people like Howard and myself that can assist you along the way and provide the resources in a simplified kind of version for you and easily accessible too, right? Another important thing to do would be to really get in touch with your broadband officer, right? Because at the end of the day, the state broadband officer are going to be the ones that actually distribute the funds. So the more that you can reach out to them, the more you can ask questions, develop that relationship with them, the more that they learn about sort of your operations, they know that you can not only provide reliable technology, but you can also provide services that your community needs, right? So the second part to that question, Emery, what was the second part again, if you don't mind?
So how do you handle the private funding application, like the matching grants? Like what are you supposed to, how do you handle that part, right? That's hard.
Yeah, so okay, we can all agree with the fact that BEAD is definitely a significant funding opportunity, right? But the truth is it's not really the only path forward. So it's really, really important for providers to always explore alternative financing options that can really support their project, especially private funding sources that can help them progress their build out without sort of waiting for like the next federal grant application cycle or until their matching capital is required. So it's really important. More and more investors are beginning to enter the broadband space because they're now starting to recognize that although broadband is a long-term investment, but it's also a very high returning investment, if done correctly, of course. So when it comes to private funding options, I mean, the options are countless, right? You have options ranging from private equity to venture capital to infrastructure funds and private debt lenders and even software and equipment financiers. So overall, I would say there's never what you would call like an application deadline of sorts in the private funding world, right? The options are out there and your pursuit of capital is not just limited to 1 or 2 application rounds a year. So what's really important is to secure your matching funds early to kind of get that worry out the way. And really just, again, connect with people that can put you in touch with these folks that are active in the industry and are looking to support your community and help you in your public build-outs. Private and public funding really go hand in hand together very well. So options are endless. It's really just educating yourself on the options that are out there.
Awesome. Well, I also wanted to tell you about our cool tool that we have that I just put in the chat. It's actually pretty awesome. We keep on track of all of the states and their deadlines and what they're doing and all that stuff. So it's a great tool to keep in your wheelhouse of where you are. So just bookmark that. It will help you know where my state's at, when my application's coming up, you know,
Yeah.
helps you kind of keep the guesswork out.
Thank you for that, Anne-Marie. Yeah, if I could just say a quick word about it. I mean,
Yeah.
what we did is we essentially compiled all the information across all 56 state and territories broadband office into one website. So all you got to do is simply select your state. You can kind of, as soon as you select your state, you'll get an overview of your state's BEAD allocation, a timeline of where your state's at throughout its BEAD process, and then also all of the relevant resources that you would need to be successful in your application. So it'll link your IPv2, your IPv1, your challenge results, your pre-qualification guides, your webinars, blog posts, etc. So really kind of just great place for an overall comprehensive view of your state, and you can obviously use that to leverage across other states as well.
Okay, super helpful anyway. So awesome. Okay, well, we are going to push out another poll question here. We've got our last poll question to do. So the last poll question, funding consultation. So these are very helpful, especially if you have questions, need help with private funding, those kind of things. We can really be supportive in those areas for BEAD deployment, network questions, grant funding, all that. Okay. Okay. Finishes up. We have a few more questions, and then I do want to leave a little time for Q&A. Need to go a little faster, so I will try to find some time for Q&A. Okay. So Howard, for those who have already applied for BEAD or other programs, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned that could help new applicants?
This is rather generic, but I would say trying to be as prepared as you can, which is very difficult. I think the BEAD program has more moving parts than any broadband grant program we've ever seen. Even the eligible locations are sometimes not, they're established, but some states, for example, are doing sort of a second or sort of continual round of challenges for the locations and their eligibility. And so the challenges of the broadband fabric, what was eligible perhaps a year ago when challenges were originally done, and what's eligible now, those things are a snapshot in time, and so build outs keep moving forward. So what's eligible and what's not continues to change, and so there's a lot of variables going on in BEAD applications. And so as much preparation as you can have help you navigate those things. There's still going to be challenges in going through the application process and making the best decisions, but the better information you have on what is eligible on your network and what you need to do, the areas that you want to target, and the things that your state is reviewing and evaluating for points, as well as the breakdown of project areas will just really help in making all those decisions.
Great, thanks, Howard. So Shapur, if a provider does not win BEAD in the first round, which according to our poll results, they would be very devastated about because they all want grant funding. What other opportunities could they find because they really want grants?
Yeah, so obviously there's plenty of other, okay, I wouldn't say plenty of
other funding.
I would say, across public funding, there are other options like Reconnect. Reconnect 5, I believe, passed just recently. So there are continuing to have fund programs like those. Besides public funding, I would just really focus on exploring the options of private funding, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the options are truly endless. My best advice to BSPs is to really take out all your options and kind of spread them all out on a table and kind of evaluate which ones will fit best for your business plans, right? Because every project is different, every company is different, everyone's going to have different financial performance, they're going to have different strategies for deployment, different services. So it's really, really important to do your research and find the funding source that will best fit your needs and fit into your strategy the most smooth and effortless way. So really, I mean, in private funding, you can, if you're looking for a particular source of capital, there's definitely some sort of funding or financing that you can get to help support those needs. So in between all of the public funding programs, definitely explore some options in the private funding world, and then definitely make sure to take advantage of those application cycles for those public grants when the time does come. Because like I said, those two pieces of funding really work hand in hand. They complement each other really nice. And yeah.
And in private funding, do they take over your business, or are there still opportunities to have control? I mean, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, so that's definitely a very common misconception that we hear in the market a lot. Don't worry, these investment firms aren't here to take your company away from you
You
and
don't
fire
want to
you in
run
a
your
couple
business
years.
on a regular basis. That's shocking.
Yeah, maybe some of the folks like those crazy infrastructure funds that run the world or something like that, but the good thing about our industry is what we work with at Calix, at least from speaking from my perspective, we work with a very select few of investors that are very active in the industry, and they're not only they not only do they have experience in the industry, but they're really here to support your business, right? They appreciate that you're a local provider delivering services to your community and supporting the people that truly need it. So they aren't here to take over your company or move it in a complete direction. They're just here to provide some support and help you kind of reach those goals, right? And you don't even have to give up equity, right? There's so many different options that are just strictly focused on debt alone, which could also help you kind of reach those goals a little bit faster and help provide some of those matching capital expenses, you could say, for these public grants.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, is there any? I want to leave a little time for Q&A. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. I think you can put them into our chat. Otherwise, I have one last question for our panelists here, which is really just kind of a generic, what's the number one thing you would do today? So everybody think of one thing you're going to do, to help strengthen your application, to help build your business. What would be the one action you would take? That if you were going to go home and take your, look at your opportunity and say, what am I supposed to do? What would be that item you could do that would move the needle? So Howard, what would you recommend? What's one thing they could do?
Well, I would look at, get familiar with my state's BEAD process if I haven't already, and look at what's eligible and what areas I might want to target. And and don't let that feel overwhelming to you, any of the BEAD process for that matter. So you look for a third party to help with that, or you can do it on your own as well if that's something you're able to do. But that's what I would do, be very familiar with those schedules, what the dates are, and what's eligible.
That's great. And Jose, what's the one thing you would do?
Well, aside from what Howard just mentioned, which is very critical, I just say build on your community partnerships, right? Just continue to build that support, because it will be hopefully very helpful.
And support, what's one thing you'd recommend?
I would say one thing that I would recommend would be to really consider the services that you deploy. So really consider how you can differentiate yourself from the competition and really stand out from some of those tier ones, right? Because like Jose mentioned, community partnerships is really, really important for the BEAD application, because it's showing your commitment to your community, right? Now, those letters of support certain states have a cap off for how much points they can allocate for that, right? But it doesn't mean that the state officer won't still subconsciously be thinking about your commitment to your community and the other great things that you're doing. So it'll still play a role in your application. It could still put some more points in your favor. So definitely look into how you can really support your community, deploy services that they need, and I guess support the overall economic growth of your community and the people you serve. So figure out how to differentiate yourself effectively and deploy the things that they need.
All right, Jason, what do you think?
Well, these are all great suggestions for sure. Beyond the engagement at the state level, which, as echoing from before, they will appropriate funds. So when you get those engagements, those relationships, I believe there's path for preference points in that process, that there are certain things individual states are looking for to accomplish with these funds. So make sure you're aligning with that, and then position your application, or more specifically your technology, to deliver a network that can fulfill that and give that investment the longest life cycle possible with that funding right up front. So
That's great. Also, it's great advice. All right, well, if you haven't done it today, walk down to your city council, your city office, and go meet the mayor, go meet the city manager, and make sure that they know who you are, and make friends with them. Get started there. Make sure you know who these people are. They're going to be important to your application long term. Make some friends from the beginning and build those relationships. So we appreciate everyone on the webinar today. We hope you learned a lot, and good luck with your applications. Take advantage of the resources that you have available to you. There are many CE firms, many builders out there that want to help you and support you in this process. So we appreciate you, and thank you for listening.
Great. Thanks, everyone.